Scooby-Doo is one of the longest lasting and influential cartoons ever made since it premiered on September 13th, 1969, and has been practically going on ever since, with dozens of different series and dozens of different movies all throughout its run. But despite its dominance in popular culture today, it wasn't always quite like that. Despite at first being practically Hanna-Barbera's most popular show, with multiple spin-offs and series, it did start to wane in popularity, eventually taking a decade-long hiatus after the latest series, A Puppy Named Scooby-Doo, ended. You could consider this a Scooby-Doo Dark Age where nothing was done with the franchise, but with every Dark Age comes a Renaissance. I like to consider the next 3 movies as Scooby-Doo's Renaissance, as it completely revitalized the franchise, and hit a peak arguably not seen again until Mystery Incorporated, which I can't get into now. These movies, Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, and Alien Invaders are some of the most popular and beloved movies in the series, Zombie Island especially. I know Cyberchase is grouped there, but I don't personally consider it to be one, as I feel it strays way too much from the consistency of animation, atmosphere, story, twists, and just horror vibes of the movies before it, and it feels more like the start of the modern trend of Scooby-Doo movies that would happen immediately after. Now, I wouldn't quite call myself a Scooby-Doo fan. I mean, I watched What's New as a kid and some of the movies when they aired on Cartoon Network, and what's later caught with Mystery Incorporated, and absolutely loved it. But this VHS trilogy are what I and many others consider to be the best of the franchise. These 3 movies are brimming with new energy and horror atmosphere that's engaging for kids and arguably adults too. Everyone remembers Zombie Island for its sheer dark atmosphere and terrifying scenes, but I feel Witch's Ghost should be talked about more too. I mean, it's definitely not forgotten. It did introduce the Hex Girls, who are some of the most popular Scooby-Doo characters for obvious reasons. But I feel this movie is so enveloped in the atmosphere of autumn, and especially Halloween, that's practically a much watch for the season. But let me get into that. Also, spoilers for all 3 of the movies, if you really care about spoilers for decades-old Scooby-Doo movies. But they do have surprises, so you have been warned. Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost starts out with the gang in a museum, in a usual case of stopping a few Viking-like mummies, with usual Scooby-Doo chases and hijinks, until they're stopped by someone new. A horror writer named Ben Ravencroft, voiced by the legendary Tim Curry, who Velma immediately is smitten with. Ben invites them to his hometown of a sleepy, old-fashioned village called Oakhaven, which is currently having an autumn festival, primarily around sightings of the ghosts of a witch who used to inhabit the town. The witch was actually Ben's ancestor, Sarah Ravencroft, who he is certain is a Wiccan medicine woman, unfairly labeled as an evil witch by the town, and seeks the gang's help to find her own medicine journal to prove her innocence. But when night falls, the ghost of the witch reveals itself, so it's up to the gang and Ben to find out what's really going on. Sounds like a standard Scooby-Doo affair, with the gang going to a new location to solve the mystery of a monster or ghost haunted the town, with some new stuff like Ben in the book. And for the most part, it is, but the movie really uses it to its advantage, compared to Zombie Island, which didn't have much of a mystery. Sure, there were a bunch of spooky goings-on that the game was looking into, but there wasn't much of an active search for clues and solving it, since the clues were too unnatural to be put together in any standard way, and at the end pretty much no one was able to solve it. This one takes more of its time with a slow pace once the gang gets to Oakhaven and checks out the sights. Here we do see plenty of suspects potentially linked to the ghost's emergence, such as the mayor, other townsfolk, the Hex Girls, and even Ben himself. And the movie does have the gang active in solving it by searching for clues and tracking down subjects to add to the mystery of what's going on in Oakhaven. But the movie smartly doesn't make it the only thing, it has surprises in store. The gang quickly does have a plan in action to lure out the ghosts from what they've gathered from clues they got from suspects, and set up a trap to see who they really are and piece together the entire scheme. But wait, there's still half an hour left. How can it still go on? And yeah, the mysteries get even further with twists about the characters working organically in. Before I do, let me get into what's really great about this movie and why it's perfect for the season. The atmosphere. This movie is dripping in autumn. Oakhaven is such a beautiful and quaint town with spacious New England architecture and bright colors of the green grass and orange leaves of the many trees littering the area. It gets such a cozy and nice vibe. I would love to be there, sit under the trees, go to the restaurant, and just have a great time. The Puritan village site the town made for the festival works even better for the Halloween vibe and brings us on the classic atmosphere of the season's origin. We spend a lot of time in the beginning just around the town and seeing sights and getting to know it better, which really helps make the town feel real and lived in and a place you would want to go. No wonder it became a tourist attraction for this season. It makes a very pleasant time to see the gang go around and enjoy themselves like they're on vacation. But when night falls, that's when the eeriness comes. The town gets drenched in shadows and deep blues that give the perfect spooky atmosphere. It feels like trick-or-treating or something on an eerie Halloween night, especially with the thoughts of ghosts and witches in the shadows. A lot of shots still have the orange of the trees through the shadows, so it still feels like fall despite all the blue. It's like a chilly autumn night. That's something I absolutely love these three movies for, their atmosphere. The watercolor backgrounds are so intricate and lively. They're downright beautiful, like a painting in every shot. The colors complement the shadows to such a degree it's inspiring. And it's true for the other movies. Zombie Island's Moonscar Island gives us a perfect, eerie swamp. Even in the daylight can make it look dense and overgrown and treacherous, even the manor itself that is supposed to be safe. And it's downright terrifying at night with the deep, deep shadows and lighting, making it like a horror movie with the zombies lurking and attacking. It's just a beautiful location that's practically the opposite of Oak Haven's homely vibes. And Alien Invaders is great with how it shows the heat and isolation of New Mexico's deserts and the dark, winding caves later on. We never get such great atmosphere and locations in their dense shading and lighting like this again until arguably Mystery Incorporated. And the animation of these movies to me is honestly the peak of the franchise. I gotta say that modern Scooby-Doo movies definitely have good animation and style with their character designs, and how fluid they can be, but nothing can beat the cell animation of these movies that make the characters feel so close to the locations and how stylized they can be. And to me, this movie does the most with it, even more than Zombie Island, especially with the animation of the Hex Girls. Not only are their designs great, but the use of colored shading on them constantly makes them stand out and bring that goth vibe home. Look at the shots of their performances, it's freaking gorgeous. I see people say this movie can feel like a Scooby-Doo anime, and in scenes like this, it 100% feels like it. You get a lot of that vibe in the character designs, animation bursts, and colors, and I seriously love that, and I honestly miss it. This movie is so gorgeous and atmospheric in its fun approach to horror that it became my main inspiration for my yearly Halloween art challenge, and I love the vibe and I tried my best to recreate it. Honestly, on the visuals alone, I feel this movie is a Halloween classic. It's just drenched in it. But yeah, speaking of them, I have to talk about the most important thing this movie brought to the franchise: the Hex Girls, Thorn, Dusk, and Luna. This trio of goth girls has pretty much dominated the movie, and it's easy to see why. For one, well, they're a group of hot goth girls in a rock band, how can you not get into them? But it's also their attitude as well, of fully embracing that dark culture while still being cool as hell and rocking out. Parts of the movie where they play is practically just like a music video, and it's hard not to love them. Speaking of the music, people know about their main song, I'm a Hex Girl, Earth, Wind, Fire, and Air, and maybe The Witch's Ghost as the end credits song. But I don't think enough people know that there is a full-on Hex Girls album for the movie with a bunch of songs sung by them that's honestly great. Take a listen. Seriously, check out the soundtrack on YouTube. Kinda puts this line in perspective.
But we won't be here for long. We're close to cutting our first CD.
But it's nice that they're not just this cool group of characters. In this movie, we do learn more about them outside of their dark, witchy personas. And they're surprisingly a lot more important than you would think when they start as suspects for the witch's revival. We see a lot more normalcy outside of their acts, and a bit of vulnerability as well, making it clear that they're actual people and just love to play out their edgy selves for fun. Honestly, they're kinda dorks and I love them.
See you in the morning. Bad dreams, sisters. Bad dreams, sister.
With characters like these with such big personalities and coolness on screen, of course it would be a hit with the fan base and even the franchise. I think that they're the only characters who have consistently reappeared throughout the franchise in different movies and iterations that isn't just an extended reference or a villain cameo. It's kind of amazing that throughout the series' history of hundreds of side characters, suspects, even older movies like Boo Brothers and Ghoul School seemingly trying to introduce new reoccurring characters that never did show up again, the Hex Girls were the only ones who really had. But they do actually really fit well into the franchise as reoccurring characters, not only for the series' reputation of the gang meeting up with celebrities, but also the Hex Girls' whole attitude complements the series' scary but fun vibe. Though despite all their appearances through the franchise, they really got to shine the most in this movie. Though, okay, honestly, nothing beats them in Mystery Incorporated having a Scott Pilgrim music battle against Scott zombies. That was freaking awesome. but this is the most they've gotten actually engaged with the plot and actually getting to know them and their stories. Apparently, they're even gonna get their own movie! Until it got cancelled by the recent merger Zaslav. But here, I mean, you see some of their families. It's kinda weird looking back that Thorne's real name is Sally McKnight, but she's also surprisingly more of a character than you would think, as she was established to be partially Wiccan on her mother's side, to add to the mystery of the witch, and she has a minor character arc through the movie. The movie, I feel, does a great job with the extra characters, even more than Zombie Island or Alien Invaders, especially with Ben Ravencroft. He's the most important side character, and is the one pushing the main plot to prove Sarah Ravencroft's innocence by finding her journal. He's the one who introduces the gang to the town and its history, and is also side by side with them, actively trying to solve it. He's also directly affected by the main plot of solving the case of the witch's ghost, since it both, and the town's profiting of it, hurts his family's reputation. So the audience can immediately sympathize with them. They come across very friendly and likable, helped with Velma's infatuation with them, starting by the love of their horror and mystery novels. But that quickly starts to build into an actual romance brought by their time together. I love how these early movies are actually centered around a particular character and an arc with them, which you practically never see anymore, at least not anything you can actually care about. In Zombie Island, it was about Daphne trying to find a real mystery to reinvigorate her new career, and Alien Invaders had Shaggy and Scooby falling in love with Crystal and Amber. But that's predated with Velma's crush on Ben. Tim Curry plays them amazingly, where he's actually pretty subdued and come across as very classy and sophisticated, at least for now. With the hunt for the book and solving the mystery of the ghost, as I said, it feels like a mostly standard Scooby-Doo adventure, with Velma quickly figuring out the town conspiracy that they were faking the ghost of Sarah Ravencroft to attack tourism to the town. Though, technically there wasn't any real malice aside from potentially firing on random civilians. Ben still rightfully calls them out for using his ancestors' identity to line their own pockets, but to atone for it, they admit they found Sarah's grave when educating the Puritan village, but couldn't find the book. But Velma pieces together it could have been buried by the fallen oak tree, like in the portrait, where Scooby dug up an old shoe buckle in the intro, but they found it's actually for the book. So Ben found the book at long last. Happy ending! Oh, wait. Yeah, it was a standard Scooby-Doo affair. Up till now. And this is where the movie goes from decent to great. These films love to establish a mystery in the first 2/3, but then add a bonus twist of an actual paranormal event all along. Zombie Island had the zombies being real, and Simone and Lena were the real monsters, luring the people to the island to steal their life force. Alien Invaders had Crystal and Amber be actual aliens, both good intentions. And Witch's Ghost had Sarah Ravencroft be a real magical witch, with Ben secretly using the Scooby Gang to find her spellbook to gain magical powers himself. And it almost didn't happen. At first it was just the town and the fake witch, until it was decided to change it to Ben being evil and Sarah being a real witch to fit the theme of Zombie Island, which I am so thankful for. It's a really great twist. If being voiced by Tim Curry didn't give it away, when does he not play villains? But considering how nice and likable Ben was, and his growing relationship with Velma was like a slap in the face to learn he was using them the whole time. And it kinda makes sense looking back with how Ben inserted himself into the original case, which revealed that he started the whole thing and to get on their good side, and convinced them to go to Oakhaven. And his sheer drive to find the book and randomly prove his ancient ancestors' innocence does seem suspicious. The town's scheme of having a fake witch had nothing to do with it, but actually helped him frame his motivation of clearing her name. And Tim Curry is allowed to go all out on his sheer Tim Curryness to give us such a good time.
You can't solve me so easily.
Not only that, but backed up with the magic of the book, Ben is able to go all out with his new magic with telekinesis to bind the characters and summoning fire, where he gives a mad chase to try to take the book back. Even the mystery machine gets involved in the climax. When do you see that? But it's not long until Ben uses his new powers to release the ghost of Sarah herself, who was trapped in the book this whole time by a clan of Wiccans. I love Sarah's design, especially with the juxtaposition of how she was shown before Ben's lie, now into an ethereal white specter with an elongated face, purple eyes, and deep black shading. She contrasts so much with the dark night of the Puritan village, once again making such a great Halloween aesthetic. Sarah immediately proves she means business, and she's not into just ruling the world like Ben wants. She wants to actively destroy it in retribution, and proves it by immediately killing plant-life in the vicinity. Even Ben immediately regrets summoning her when she shows how truly evil she is, and tries to steal her back. But can't do it because only a Wiccan with a good soul can steal such a malevolent entity, as she turns on her descendant and the person to free her in the first place. I love Sarah's personality, and how joyously malicious she is in her carnage, also my kind of cynical and sarcastic side to her.
What was that?
And she pulls out all the stops on her magic, not only with brutal fireballs, but also making magical minions like spider pumpkins, living trees, and even turning a turkey into a giant dinosaur. Granted, turkeys aren't really Halloweeny, but they make do. It's actually really funny how they defeat it.
Time to baste this bird!
Sarah really ups the stakes as the gang is in legitimate danger from her magic and her minions. It's not as dark as Zombie Island's climax, it's still somewhat lighthearted, but it's intense enough to still have a scary vibe. It becomes a mad dash to get the book back and avoid getting killed by Sarah and the monsters for the only hope of stopping her. It all culminates to Thorn of all people being the hero, as her being partially Wiccan allows her to use the book's magic, as well as seal away Sarah just in time. But Sarah also drags Ben into it, and the animation just gets so cool and seals both of them away before they all get burned up, essentially killing them. Pretty brutal death, not as much as the villains at Zombie Island, but still.
Ben Ravencroft's last book is one the world will never buy.
Looks like the witch is toast. But in all seriousness, I freaking love the whole climax, and it's the best part of the film. Though, to wrap things up, the Puritan village is destroyed by the scuffle before the big festival, and is left without an attraction. And yet the Hex Girls say they're available.
No offense, girls, but I think we need a bigger attraction.
Psst, yeah, right, you don't know the fandom these girls have. But they use a monster turkey as an attraction, which didn't get turned back to normal after Sarah was defeated for some reason. Weird. But yeah, ends with the Hex Girls concert and their song Earth, Wind, Fire, and Air, which is a song about caring for the environment. That's really weird because that was never part of the story. I mean, they did say they were eco-goths, and the Wiccan culture is about preserving the Earth's natural resources, but it's just kind of weird and random. But hey, it's a nice song, the animation is great, and it feels nice to end the movie on it. Before I finish, I want to talk briefly on the other Scooby-Doo movies. Zombie Island was the first true return to form for the franchise, and they went all out on it, making arguably the darkest iteration of the franchise, only rivaled by Mystery Incorporated. And fitting as a return, the plot is about the gang, namely Daphne, returning after splitting up after their adventures got too boring, with every case just being men in masks pretending to be monsters, and now looking for a real paranormal mystery until one gets shoved into them, investigating Moonscar Island and the haunted house. The location is given a ton of history, with the settlers, the pirates that took over, and its history of being a pirate plantation, and it gives such an eerie vibe with the dense, murky outskirts, even in the daytime. What I think this movie does great is its pacing. It feels like an actual movie. It builds up the tension slowly, and it's not all in your face about it. It uses the time to build up the suspense and the mystery of the unexplainable occurrences on the island, with minor scares and events eventually building up to the reveal of Captain Moonscar's zombie, and later when all hell breaks loose and the game is trapped in the swamp with a zombie hordes chasing after them. The animation and art design is so amazing, with the dense dark shadows of the swamp and the zombies making it truly horrifying. It's also so incredibly atmospheric. It gets insanely intense. Paranormal events had happened before in the franchise, but it was never done in this realistic and gritty a way. It's great for changing up the stakes and formula and for this reinvention of the franchise. Also, Terror Time is freaking awesome. But they didn't just leave it that the zombies were real. There's another twist that the mansion owners, Simone and Lena, were actual monsters, being werecats. After the god they worship transformed them to take revenge on the pirates that slaughtered their fellow settlers, and used the harvest moon to absorb people's souls to extend their lives. And the zombies are all actually victims, and also brilliantly reframing all the zombie attacks as they were trying to help the Scooby Gang, and scare them away before they can meet the same fate. It is weird, it was actually a reused unproduced SWAT Cats episode, but it's really great. Honestly, a great movie, especially in its brutal atmosphere. No wonder it's the most acclaimed film in the fanbase. Alien Invaders isn't as appreciated in the fanbase. It doesn't try to reach the same points as Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost, but it's still a fun time. Pretty simple and focuses more on the core narrative of after a seeming alien sighting, the gang investigates the town of Roswell and other aliens terrorizing the local area. But Shaggy and Scooby soon meet a hippie girl and her dog, Crystal and Amber, who they quickly fall in love with, and try to make themselves better in hopes that they can get into a relationship with them. While the narrative is rather weak, focusing on a generic and obvious mystery, the Shaggy and Scooby subplot is really the highlight. It's just so freaking cute and the relationship is so adorable.
How groovy, just us two, so groovy.
It's really weird to see characters like Scooby and Shaggy, who are just textbook comic relief in all iterations, actually undergo a compelling character arc, but it works to the movie's advantage and gives it that spark it needs. Funny how all the movies focus on a character having a particular arc around them, except for Fred. Which Cyber Chase actually did something with that, but what you gonna do? The atmosphere, while not being as good as the other ones, still really sell the isolated desert city with the intense colors of the daylight and the cold dark tones of the mind when night falls. I also love how the aliens are designed and drawn with their harsh shading and weird facial structures. But the twist here is that Crystal and Amber were the real aliens all along, but also to subvert it, unlike Zombie Island and especially Witch's Ghost, that they had a paranormal reveal but also made the love interest evil. Here, they are actually good and try to help the gang stop the crooks. And I really like how despite Shaggy and Scooby surprised that they're really aliens, they still help them out regardless, and even had the rare moment of genuine bravery. It's a bittersweet ending how despite all they went through, they can't be together, and too leave to go back to their home planet, as it's too long for the life they could have had. I really like Crystal and Amber, and I wonder what if they got the Hex Girls treatment and appear in other series and movies. Though the whole alien thing does make it a lot harder to integrate them than just a goth rock band. Well, maybe Mr. Incorporated could've, but yeah, super cute movie. And yeah, I think all these movies are great, and by far the best movies that Scooby-Doo has done. They're so gorgeously animated and atmospheric that no other Scooby-Doo media has quite captured that feeling, and the way they handle their narratives are fantastic. They have great ways of implementing the paranormal into their narratives, and setting the bar while they do so. It's so weird looking back at it nowadays that modern Scooby-Doo movies have completely and utterly banned all paranormal stuff, to the point of actually retconning these movies to not have any paranormal stuff for literally no reason. Return to Zombie Island may be the worst thing ever. It's ironic as these movies are the most popular and well-regarded pieces of Scooby-Doo media, largely because they were willing to experiment and implement the paranormal into their plots, yet the studio seems avid to not do it. Yeah, we gotta keep things grounded in a series based off a talking dog that no one addresses. But yeah, I probably have the softest spot for Witch's Ghost because of how great it handles the Halloween atmosphere. It's not as scary or intense as Zombie Island, but I find it a lot more fun. It has a great charm to it and how it balances its standard mystery and paranormal twist. It's great. Its character relations and new arrivals are also great. I mean, it gave us the Hex Girls. And yet you can't ignore how perfect it is for the holiday. It's so drenched and atmospheric and so much fun. It always gets me in the mood for spooky season, to the point where I've started to make it my tradition to watch it every year. I think it should be more of a Halloween staple. It's perfect for the series. I really recommend it, especially if you're a Scooby fan or just want to get into the mood of the season. Give it a watch, and a rocking good October.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
What?
Whoever told you to do this, well, she's either a bitch or a ghost.
Shinobu, you don't look so good.
Run! She's a ghost and a bitch!